I was giving up on love. But it wasn't some anguished declaration of how I'd never find the one. Just that I didn't know how to go about finding her anymore. When it came to romance, people always defined it so nebulously. Accepting someone for their flaws, growing with them and overcoming obstacles together, compromising and communicating, etc., etc. But you can do those things with friends? Like, I didn't understand the line between romantic and platonic when it comes to that. Like, I have friends I've disagreed with, worked things out with, trust with my emotional vulnerability. Like, at what point does any of that suddenly go from platonic to romantic? There was no line in the sand that I could definitively reference for myself as the boundary beyond which a platonic relationship becomes fully romantic in nature. Well, there was one line that I could say was definite, which was, well, for me, the line was, bed wrestling, so to speak. And I won't knock people for being freer or more reserved for that sort of thing. But I'm a bit uncomfortable with the idea of the only signature of a relationship being physical intimacy to the point of requiring, privacy by law. It's hard to explain, but I just can't work with that. My mind worked it out as dating for that. And I can't do that with someone I'm not emotionally intimate with. So dating became this weird speed run to get to know someone new as quickly as possible to see if we were compatible for that sort of thing, which didn't work and didn't sit right with me. Which is how I came to the realization that a life of actively looking specifically for someone like that, well, it's not to my taste. So I thought, oh well, what about my close friends? I was admittedly physically attracted to a number of them, and I would go on to shoot my shot with some of them as well. They all turned me down. But those friendships are pretty solid after that boundary was established, so still a net win. But the experience of that felt off somehow. I mean, there was the spark of attraction in those instances, yeah, and I would experience a growing jubilancy in falling for a friend, but it wasn't quite the same experience as when Lotus captivated me. I'd realize how I'd feel and think about them more often than I had before, but maybe I was leaning into the familiarity of my friends, and the growing romantic inclinations felt invasive when compared to my platonic ones. Which makes sense considering my feelings of friendship were far stronger than those of romance by that point. Hard to say. Either way, when it got to the point that I couldn't hide my feelings or they were starting to affect our friendship, I was more terrified of what I would do if any of my feelings were reciprocated. Because then what? At which point I decided it was best to reevaluate my relationships further, as well as re-examine myself, who I was and what I wanted. And I didn't know the answers to either. Well, there was one thing I wanted. To be happy. Or at least content with myself and my lot in life. I was happy for years before Lotus. What did I need to be happy for the ensuing years after her? What did I need to do? I indulged in my older hobbies, video games, music, reading, found new ones, poetry, spoken word, dance. And the list would go on to grow even now to include things like streaming, YouTube, languages. My heart has felt lighter in the ensuing years. Friendships have come and gone. Others have remained strong, tempered by more open communication, more care, more affection, more love, even with time and distance separating me from them. I'm not immune to hurt, but I'm optimistic. I'm still optimistic, having been hurt and having healed. When it comes to looking for a partner, I'm still playing that stuff by ear, looking only passively, going off of what I want to do with the people that enter my life, but also, despite my better sense, trusting my heart. And, well, lately, my heart has been racing again, giddy and nervous at the thought of someone. It's a familiar feeling, yet completely different. It scares me sometimes, but I can't help leaning into it, because the thrill both excites and calms me. It's comforting to know that I can still fall in love like that. And, as before, it started over something small. An unexpected delight, with only more unexpectations waiting around the corner. I hope it all goes well, but there's no way for either of us to know that. But I know who I am, thanks to Lotus. When it comes to Lotus and our relationship, I guess the only thing I'll allow myself to regret is that I never got a chance to say, I love you. Because, flawed as my thinking was at the time, I did love her, in the full capacity of what I understood to be love. And I owe her an apology for not being enough in the end. Other than that, though, can't say I regret it. Would I do anything different? I don't think so. Because the person I became as a result? Not gonna lie, I consistently like him these days. Typically ambivalent towards him on my worst days. The me of today is doing good. And I have Lotus to thank for that. And I hope she's doing well. Wherever she is.